Everyone loves a good moving fantasy. New state, new city, fresh start, lower cost, better life. We've all Googled the best places to live in the United States and worst places to live. Maybe even cheapest real estate in the good old USA. You find that place and then you head right over to Zillow and start looking for the dream home. But here's the part nobody likes to talk about. Moving trucks don't lie. Today's video is based on 25 places in the United States that saw a jump in outward bound state-to-state moves according to moving companies and some moving-related rental services. Even though they've had a jump, it doesn't mean that they're losing population. Matter of fact, in some of them, they're still gaining because more people are moving in. This is just places that saw an increase in people fleeing a location. We're looking at states, cities, and even a few counties. Let's take a look. Number 25, South Dakota. People arrive chasing tax freedom and quiet. Some leave after they realize quiet doesn't pay the bills and winter never negotiates. South Dakota is one of the most moved to states in recent years, and it's a pretty cool state. The downside is they don't have a giant industry that is paying most of the population. Their two largest industries are agriculture and manufacturing. Agriculture is great, and for the people that own the farms, they make a lot of money. The people working there don't make that much, and they don't need as many employees as they once did. Especially these days, one of their biggest crops is soybeans, and we've just had a major blow to the soybean industry. Manufacturing is another key sector, especially when it comes to food processing. Not many people in the food processing game are bringing in six-figure incomes. And you don't make food so much as you watch it become more valuable than yourself. The chicken nuggets get bonuses. You get a hairnet and a strong reminder that competitive pay is a feeling, not really a number. In 2025, South Dakota saw a 14% jump in outbound moves compared to 2024. 24, Nebraska. Young people exit for opportunity. Rural counties hollow out while cities struggle to replace who left. Nebraska is just like South Dakota. They're right next to each other, and they share the same fate. They've got agriculture and food processing. After that, they got some transportation, warehousing, and financing, and not a ton of high-paying jobs and opportunities to advance. On top of that, Nebraska's frickin' boring, so the kids just leave. Young people in Nebraska don't move away, they escape. High school graduation isn't a ceremony, it's a countdown clock. The second that diploma hits their hand, they're already halfway to Denver, telling themselves they're only coming back for Papa's funeral. Nebraska saw a 14.8 jump in outward bound moves compared to 2024. 23, Wyoming. Beautiful, wide, and empty. Turns out isolation works better in theory than in practice for most people. Here's the biggest problem Wyoming faces right now. Rich people are moving in, and the blue collar are being shown the door. Besides that situation, people don't leave Wyoming because they hate it. They leave because they've already done everything. You see one beautiful landscape, one empty town, and one now hiring sign that's been there since 2009, and your brain goes, yep, I've completed Wyoming. Save file and exit. Wyoming saw a 15.2% jump in outbound moves compared to 2024. 22, Pueblo, Colorado. Once an affordable Colorado alternative to Denver, Colorado Springs, and Boulder, Pueblo ain't doing that great these days. Jobs stayed thin, costs didn't. And they're not knocking it out of the park with safety either. People don't leave Pueblo because it isn't cheap anymore. They leave because it somehow pulled off the impossible. It got more expensive and worse at the same time. Rent went up, services went down, and the city officials looked at that equation and said, perfect, let's lose everyone. Pueblo saw a 15.4% jump in outward bound moves compared to 2024. 21, Oklahoma. Low cost, but limited upside. Many residents leave once career ceilings become obvious. People move to Oklahoma for affordable real estate. Then they leave once they realize the house was the best thing about the state. At some point, you look at your low mortgage, look around, and think, yeah, that was priced correctly. And it really wasn't a bargain after all. Oklahoma saw a 15.6% jump in outward bound moves. 20, Detroit. Recovery exists, but it's uneven. Population decline remains the long shadow of Detroit. Now, their downtown is doing much better. The areas around downtown, not so much. They're still depressed and people are still moving out. I know what you're saying. How many more can they possibly lose? There's still some. Detroit saw a 15.6% jump in outward bound moves. 19, Cleveland. Stability without growth. That's the name of the game in Cleveland. Young adults continue to look elsewhere. It's like an American pastime in Cleveland. People leave Cleveland the same way they leave a bad party. Slowly at first, then all at once they realize nothing's getting better. The weather feels like you're being smited by God. The river once caught fire, and somehow that's still part of the city's brand. And every winter convinces you that hope is a seasonal thing. At some point, you stop saying, it's not that bad, and just start packing a U-Haul. Cleveland saw a 15.9% outward bound jump compared to 2024. 18, Buffalo. Improving in pockets, shrinking overall. Winters and wages still push people out of Buffalo, New York. People leave Buffalo after their third winter when they realize snow up to their waist isn't out of the ordinary. The lake effect snow shows up uninvited, blocks your car, and then dares you to be grateful about it. After a while, shoveling feels like a second job that doesn't pay, and suddenly everywhere with sidewalks you could actually see all year round starts looking like a dream. Buffalo saw a 16.2% jump in outward bound moves compared to 2024. This is what's weird though. After losing people for quite a few decades since the 1960s, since 2020 their population actually went up 6.5%. So the number of people moving in is much larger than the number of people moving out. 17, San Francisco. High salaries couldn't outrun the rent. Tech workers discovered remote exits. San Francisco's terribly overpriced, and the city kind of sucks these days. I mean, it's getting a little bit better, but it still kind of sucks. The good news, rent has kind of evened out and maybe even dropped a little bit in some areas because of remote work. More and more people are moving out of the city and into places like Walnut Creek, Concord, and Martinez. San Francisco saw a 16.6% jump in outward bound moves compared to 2024. 16, Newark, New Jersey. Proximity to New York City stopped being enough once costs followed people home. Newark and New York City, it's like this balancing act. Things got too expensive in New York City, so people started moving to Newark. Well, once the people owning properties and everything else in Newark realized that these people that are flush from cash from New York City are heading there, they started raising their prices. Now that Newark's getting more and more expensive, some people are starting to go, maybe New York City ain't that bad after all. Newark saw a 16.6% jump in outward bound moves compared to 2024. Number 15, Orange County, California. If you don't know where Orange County is, this is where you'll find places like Laguna Beach, Newport Beach, Huntington Beach, Anaheim, Disneyland, and Knott's Berry Farm. This whole county has been getting terribly expensive for decades. Put it this way, I grew up in a pretty expensive beach community. This area looked down at us like we were poor beach people. Oddly enough, this is also like one of the only counties near the beach in California where it leaned Republican for many years. Orange County saw a 16.6% jump in outward bound moves compared to 2024. Number 14, Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix is still growing on paper, but young families are leaving as costs and heat rise together. People leave Phoenix when the rent starts climbing faster than the temperature, which is saying something because the temperature is actively trying to kill them. Summers feel like they're living inside a hairdryer that happens to be perched above a barbecue, and at some point, you're sweating, broke, and asking yourself why the sun gets free parking and you don't. Eventually, you decide if everything's going to be expensive, it might as well not be 117 degrees while you're doing it, and you move someplace. Like Wisconsin. Phoenix saw a 16.7% jump in outward bound moves compared to 2024. 13, Harris County, Texas. Flooding, insurance spikes, and congestion chip away at Texas's promise. People leave Harris County when they realize life there is just traffic, heat, and surprise flooding stitched together with toll roads. You can sit in your car for 2 hours, arrive drenched in humidity, and still somehow be late because thunderstorms turned the freeway into a kayak launch. Eventually, folks decide that if they're going to sweat, pay high insurance, and check flood maps like weather forecasts, they might as well do it somewhere with less traffic and fewer pickup trucks floating past their driveway. If you don't know, Harris County is where you will find Houston, Texas. Harris County saw a 16.8% jump in outward moves compared to 2024. 12, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Taxes are up, services are uneven, middle-class residents drift outward with a farewell FU to the city of brotherly love. Philadelphia's a mess. It's a historic city and it's wonderful in that department, but there are parts of that city that are freaking scary. And on top of that, everyone hates the meter maids, the parking people. Yeah, it's a horrible situation in Philadelphia with those people. Philadelphia saw a 16.8% jump in outward bound moves. Number 11, Louisiana. Yes, the entire state, people are flooding out there just about as often as the floods they get. This state is prone to hurricanes, flooding, crime waves, historic poverty, people that speak English that you can't really understand, and some rural towns have more people than teeth. If the crime doesn't make you move, the hurricanes might. If they don't, the lack of decent jobs might. Or even the poverty might chase you out of this state. For whatever reason, Louisiana saw a 16.8% jump in outward bound moves. Number 10, West Virginia. Yes, did you think they wouldn't make this list? They're the poster child for states where people are flooding out of for a long time. I think it's slowed down a touch because all the people that could move pretty much have moved. They don't have jobs, they got drug problems, they got crime problems, they got hollers no person should go up there unless they live there. And they're one of the most undereducated states in the union. But the people are lovely, I gotta admit. Great people, beautiful state, just got a bunch of problems, and people are flooding out. West Virginia saw a 17% jump in outward bound moves compared to 2024. Number 9, the Bronx. Out-migration accelerated post-pandemic. Population density lost its appeal, like there was ever really any appeal to being living on top of each other. The Bronx's biggest problem is they're trying to compete with Manhattan for who's more expensive. Every year, Bronx is catching up. The Bronx outward bound moves was up 17.1%. Number 8, Kings County, California. Creative energy remains. Affordable housing does not. If you don't know where Kings County is, it's between Fresno and Bakersfield in the middle of California. The summers are blazing hot, the taxes are high, the poverty is high, and fewer jobs becomes more and more of a problem every single year. This is definitely not the part of California that most people dream about. They don't have an ocean, they don't have amusement parks, they have farmland and crime and heat. If you do want to go to the beach, it's about an hour and a half ride from, let's say, Kettleman City in Kings County. This is not the typical California beach you see in San Diego and Los Angeles. No, this is the kind of beach where you wear a windbreaker and dig in the sand a little bit. Kings County saw a 17.3% jump in outward bound moves compared to 2024. Number 7, Chicago. The Windy City is still massive, still influential, but residents continue relocating to suburbs and other states because it's too damn expensive. And they got crime in certain areas that are comparable to some war zones. I'm sure by now you're tired of me saying outward bound moves compared to 2024. Let's all assume we know what I'm talking about. Chicago's jump was 17.3%. Number 6, Illinois. Yes, the state Chicago is in. Illinois' long-term population losses are kind of caused by taxes and slow growth outside of Chicago. Yes, Chicago's still gaining people now. It's just losing more than they ever have. And yes, Chicago lost 0.9% of their population in 2024. In 2025, it's estimated they gained 1.1. But we're talking about Illinois. And Illinois had a 17.4% jump. Number 5, Los Angeles, California. Traffic, housing, and cost fatigue drive one of the largest urban exits in the country. Yes, they're losing thousands and thousands of people every single month. The downside is they're also gaining thousands and thousands of people every single month. If you're not used to a city like Los Angeles, it's hard to get used to. Sure, you have people living on top of each other in places like Chicago and New York, but Los Angeles is so spread out and the traffic is so bad, it just breaks people down. That is one of the main reasons I left Southern California. I used to live in Los Angeles County, is it is so far spread out that it's impossible to get anywhere. If you find work near your house, you're living the dream in Los Angeles. Los Angeles saw a 17.6% jump. Number 4, New Jersey. High incomes, higher costs, families cross the border for breathing room. People leave New Jersey after they pay rent, tolls, property taxes, and a mysterious fee that exists purely out of spite. You're boxed in by traffic, paying luxury prices to argue about which exit you're from, and somehow still told you're close to New York like that's a rent control. Eventually, folks realize the Garden State is mostly concrete, traffic cones, and attitude. And that's when they decide they'd rather miss good pizza than keep funding the entire Turnpike Authority. New Jersey saw a 17.9% jump in outward moves. Number 3, New York State. One of the largest raw population losses in the nation. Opportunity didn't disappear, affordability did. Now this isn't just in New York City. The entire state is getting more and more expensive, like abnormally more expensive than it should be. You know, not too long ago, New York was one of the most moved to states, and it had been that way for, a couple centuries, sort of like California. California didn't have many down years since 1849. But New York, even before that, they've been gaining population since the 1700s. It's a great state with a lot of history and some decent people. Sure, sometimes they're a little obnoxious, but they're decent people. New York saw a jump of 18.9%. Number 2, California. People leave the Golden State when they realize the sunshine and an exciting lifestyle doesn't pay the rent. At first, it's all beaches and optimism. Then the rent goes up, gas hits "are you kidding me" prices, and your starter home costs the same as a small moon. Eventually, people decide the weather is great, but not full-time work with 3 side hustles great. They pack up a U-Haul and promise they'll be back to visit once they can afford it again. And what really happens is they move back to Arizona and just tell their friends stories about the year they lived in California. You know, it's a really strange thing. As a person that grew up in California, how many people I met over my life asked me if I've ever seen any movie stars. And yes, I have. Are any of them my friends? No. Have I ever talked to one on the phone or gone someplace with one of them? Absolutely not. In its history since 1850, California has never had a down census. Matter of fact, 2020 was the only census they had under 2-digit growth. California saw a 19% jump. All right, before we get to number 1, if you're one of those people thinking about leaving someplace, there's a link for a website called Home and Money in the description area below. They can get you in touch with a real estate agent anywhere in the country. They got other things on their website to help you with your move. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, Alaska. High costs, limited jobs outside government and energy, and isolation fatigue drive a steady out-migration. People do love Alaska. They just don't always love living there year-round. But people normally leave Alaska when they realize rugged independence mostly means fixing everything yourself in the dark while it's 40 below. Winters last so long it starts feeling personal, and the sun disappears like it quit the job, and groceries cost enough to make you apologize to your wallet. Eventually, folks decide they love the beauty, but they also enjoy daylight, affordable milk, and a place where survival isn't a personality trait. If you want to move to Alaska, they'd love to have you. Matter of fact, they'll pay you if you do live there permanently. My suggestion though, if you're into luxury, don't move to Alaska. It's got horrible weather, mosquitoes, just an overall rough environment. For some hardy folks, that's a dream come true. But for a lot of people, you see the postcards, you see the videos, and it looks beautiful and wonderful. Then you get there and you realize you're not fighting for your life, but you kind of feel like it. Alaska saw a jump in their outward moves compared to 2024 of 19.2%. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section which one shocked you. Everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.